The Pirate's Daughter by Christopher Miracourt. Chapter 1. A Present for Gingerbeard. Prepare to board, me hearties! Grab the grappling hooks! Show no mercy! Shouted Melinda the Terrible, waving her wooden sword around her father, Gingerbeard's pirate ship. What are you doing? Her brother Ricky asked with a snicker. Sighing, Melinda looked around at the empty deck of the ship where she had been pretending to be a pirate. Her brother loved to remind her that she was a girl and there was no such thing as a girl pirate. Even Melinda the Terrible, daughter of one of the greatest pirates in the history of the seas, was no exception. Still, Melinda dreamed about chasing ships, exploring desert islands, and finding treasure chests full of gold. But every time she asked her father to take her with him, Gingerbeard just made excuses. You'd get seasick, or you'd be so scared of the cannons firing that you wouldn't set foot on deck. Hey, don't forget about Dad's birthday present, Ricky reminded her. Oh dear, Melinda's heart sank. It was the same problem every year. What can you possibly get the pirate dad who has everything? He already had plenty of earrings, boot buckles, and Jolly Rogers. You could always make him a present like you did last year, Ricky teased her. Gingerbeard had barely looked at the grog cup she had carved from wood. Ricky's present hung proudly on Gingerbeard's cabin wall. It was a shark head with 100 pointy teeth. This year I'll write Dad a poem, Melinda decided. She would tell him how much she admired and loved him. That's a crummy present for a pirate, said Ricky. Melinda shrugged her shoulders. She knew Gingerbeard would love it. While her dad was getting ready for his next trip, Melinda ran off to the port of Skull Island. She wanted to find an old piece of parchment that she could write her poem on. After a lot of walking and no luck, Melinda was about to give up. Then she stumbled upon a tiny shop hidden between a hat shop and a sword shop. Her eyes lit up. The window was full of parchments. Chapter 2. The Map of Skull Island. As Melinda opened the door, a parrot called Fatpig squawked, "Land ahoy!" And a scary-looking pirate came forward. He had an eye patch and a squeaky wooden leg. "What are you looking for?" he said, studying Melinda from head to toe with his good eye. "Parchment?" Melinda shouted nervously. "I'd like to write a poem on it for my dad's birthday." "Birthday!" repeated Fatpig. "I have just what you needed," said the pirate. He searched inside an old dusty chest before returning with a parchment as wrinkled as his old skin. Melinda was delighted. This was just what she needed. She handed 2 coins to the pirate and quickly ran back home. Melinda's house was in Shinbone's Cove, overlooking Shipwrecked Sea. It was a big log cabin, built in the shape of a ship, with a pirate flag swaying on the roof. Melinda sat down at the table, took out her goose feather quill, and dipped a nib in her bottle of squid ink. With her most perfect handwriting, she started. "Dear Dad, I love your swords and your red beard too. I will always love you. You're the most perfect pirate father. I am so proud to be your daughter." But before she could finish it, Ricky snatched the parchment from her. "Dear Daddy," he read with a mocking laugh. "Oh, I love you, I love you." Melinda chased her brother but stopped when Ricky held a parchment over top of a lit candle. "If you move a single toe, I'll burn it," he threatened. But Melinda was staring in wonder. The light of the flame was revealing a map on a parchment. A map of their own island. Invisible ink! Melinda grabbed the parchment back and ran to her room, locking herself away. A map drawn in invisible ink must lead to precious treasure, Melinda thought. Her heart was racing. He studied the map. A chest had been drawn at a place on the northern part of Skull Island, with an inscription underneath it. Captain Sprogobler's treasure. Melinda shivered. Sprogobler was the most terrifying pirate. He had disappeared 10 years ago following an attack by a galleon. Parents told children who didn't do as they were told that he would come for them and make them join his pirate crew. Captain Sprogobler will get you if you don't eat your seaweed soup, Gingerbeard had sometimes threatened. No one had ever found his treasure, but suddenly the clue was here at Melinda's fingertips. She recognized one of the places on the map, Ghost's Cliff. She knew how to get there. New treasure would make the perfect present for Dad, she decided. "Dinner's ready!" Gingerbeard's voice boomed. Melinda hid the map under her pillow and joined her family at the kitchen table. She was given a bowl of steaming crab soup and a plate of shark meat stew, her two favorite dishes. Ricky tried to figure out what Melinda was thinking. She stuck out her tongue at him. He kicked her leg under the table. Then she pelted him with rolled up balls of bread. That night she fell asleep peacefully. When she woke up and slid her hand underneath her pillow, she realized with horror that the map had disappeared. Chapter 3. Island of Danger. Melinda got up in a hurry. She knew Ricky had to be the thief. She rushed to his room and found it empty. He must have gotten up very early to go after the treasure. Melinda didn't need the parchment. She had memorized the map and all its details. She tied a scarf around her head, then she grabbed the sword that used to belong to her grandfather, Blackbeard, and stepped out of the house. The sun hadn't risen yet, and the only person in sight was an old pirate taking his dog for a walk. A moon as round as a cannonball lit Melinda's way to Ghost's Cliff. There she saw the two giant rocks she had seen on the map blocking the way into the cave. She had nearly missed them, but a torn strip of Ricky's shirt had caught her eye. It meant that Ricky was ahead of her. Melinda squeaked into the cave. It was very dark inside, and the ground was covered with slippery slime. She stepped onto the flat stone. She felt it sinking under her foot. At once, two howling skeletons jumped down in front of her. But Melinda didn't run away. Instead, she lifted her sword in front of her and shouted, "I am Melinda the Terrible, daughter of Gingerbeard, granddaughter of Blackbeard, and great-granddaughter of Redbeard. I am not scared of you." Then she closed her eyes and swung her sword around blindly. She opened her eyes again. She found a pile of skeleton bones at her feet. Melinda noticed that there were ropes connecting the skeletons to the ceiling of the cave. Stepping on the stone must have triggered the skeletons to drop down. It must be Sprogobler's little trick to scare people away. She secretly hoped that her brother's hair went white with fear. Melinda hurried on, feeling her way out toward the daylight. She found herself on the other side of the cliff, on a side of the island she didn't know. She remembered the directions on the map and turned right after the 3 palm trees that grew like entwined swords. There should be a small boat hidden there. If her memory was correct, she would need it to cross the crocodile marshes. But there was no sign of the small boat. Melinda realized that someone had cut the rope which tied the boat to the trees. She bent down and saw Ricky's pocket knife. Ricky might have my map, but I won't let him steal my treasure, she declared. Melinda saw a few stepping stones across the marshes. She took a deep breath. As she jumped onto the first stone, she noticed it was moving. Suddenly, she realized it was a crocodile. The marshes were full of real crocodiles. Chapter 4: The Chest at Serpents Rock. Gingerbeard's daughter was not ready to give up. She jumped skillfully from one crocodile to the next and dodged every snapping jaw. At last, she set foot on the other side of the marsh. As she began walking into the jungle, she heard a cry in the distance. "Help! Help!" It was Ricky's voice. Melinda ran to the rescue. She found him at the bottom of a pit that someone had hidden using twigs. "You would have avoided this trap if you had figured out what this skull on the map meant," she told him. "Just help me," Ricky begged. "I'll give you the map back, I promise." Melinda paused. "Do you still feel the same way about girl pirates?" she asked. Ricky thought for a while before replying. "I have to say that you are as brave and clever as a pirate." "I totally agree with you," Melinda responded proudly. With Blackbeard's sword, Melinda cut off a vine, grabbed one end and threw the other end down to Ricky. Once freed, Ricky reluctantly handed Melinda her map. "Now, I won't have a present for Dad," he groaned. Melinda looked at her brother and saw how disappointed he was. "Why don't we give Dad the treasure together?" she suggested. "Are you sure?" said Ricky. "Well, if you want to find it, 2 pirates are better than 1, she said. They studied the map. A chest was drawn underneath Serpents Rock. "Let's go!" Melinda cried. She cut through the jungle with her sword. Before long, they reached a clearing where a rock shaped like a snake stood. Ricky and Melinda shuddered. Melinda discovered that the rock had a huge gap underneath it. She could see the chest. "This is too easy. It must be a trap," she said. Thinking about their dad's birthday present made her feel braver. But as she approached the chest, she suddenly heard a hissing sound. Melinda froze with fear. Coming out of the rock were snakes. A lot of snakes. Soon the 2 children were completely surrounded. Chapter 5: Blackbeards Secret. "What do we do now?" Ricky whispered. "Any idea how to get us out of this?" Melinda felt bad admitting that for the first time she didn't know what to do. Suddenly, springing out of the jungle, Gingerbeard appeared. "Death to the snakes!" he howled. With his sword, he defeated each and every one of them. "Dad!" Ricky and Melinda cried together. "How did you find us?" "The old pirate walking his dog that you passed told me which way you went. He's an old friend." Taking turns, Melinda and Ricky told him about their trouble with the skeletons, the crocodiles, the trap in the jungle, and the snakes. "I'm so proud of you both," he said. "You will become the greatest pirates of all the seas. As for you," he added, squeezing Melinda in his arms, "you show that you are worthy of Blackbeard's sword. It should belong to you." "Open the chest, Dad!" Melinda cried, full of pride. "It's your birthday present." Gingerbeard pulled the chest toward him. With a swish of his sword, he broke open the lock. Ricky and Melinda held their breath. "Oh!" Melinda cried in surprise. "Huh?" said Ricky. They couldn't believe their eyes. Inside the chest lay an old teddy bear with an eye patch. Not a single gold bar or a silver coin, not even the tiniest jewel. What is this? Ricky complained. Where's the treasure? Melinda said, disappointed. Kids, this is Blackbeards' treasure, Gingerbeard said. For him, this bear was the most precious thing of all, because it reminded him of his childhood. But now we don't have a present to give you, Melinda said sadly. Gingerbeard roared with laughter. Blackbeards' bear is the best present I have ever been given. But the most wonderful of all is you two, he said, squeezing them both in his arms. Tomorrow I will take you both on my ship, and this time Melinda can be the captain. I am Melinda the Terrible, daughter of Gingerbeard, granddaughter of Blackbeard, and great-granddaughter of Redbeard, Melinda chanted, following her dad. I am Ricky the Terror, brother of Melinda the Terrible, and son of Gingerbeard, Ricky shouted after her. Adventures ahoy! Fat Beak added as he flew after them.